The year is 1991, and the Soviet Union is disintegrating. During the last few years, Mikhail Gorbachev has been trying to liberalize and reform the Soviet Union. Two of his most famous reforms, perestroika, restructuring, allowance of free businesses and enterprises in the Soviet Union, and glasnost, freedom of speech and elections, had not saved the Soviet Union as expected. The Soviet Union was heading for a complete catastrophic collapse. The economy was in the gutter, and the freedom of speech gave the people the freedom to elect non-communist parties, and nations like Lithuania, Latvia, and Georgia had already seceded the Union. Gorbachev, in an attempt to preserve the Union, wanted to create a new union of Soviet sovereign states, a confederation of a sort that would still keep the rest of the Soviet Union united, and it didn't have to be communist. The proposal had overwhelmingly passed with a referendum, except in these countries, which had already wanted full independence and separation from the Soviet Union. The new Soviet Treaty, as it was called, forming this new state, was supposed to take effect on the 20th of August 1991. However, many hardliners of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and the KGB were opposed to it and wanted to reverse the reforms and bring the Soviet Union back to its glory, or so they spoke of. The so-called State Committee on the State of Emergency consisted of these prominent members: Gennady Yanayev, Vice President of the Soviet Union; Dmitry Yazov, the Defense Minister of the Soviet Union; Vladimir Khrushchev, head of the KGB; and Boris Yugul, Interior Minister, which, interestingly, he is from Latvia. I would recommend reading a bit on him. An interesting feller. August 19, day 1 of the coup. The coup members held Mikhail Gorbachev under house arrest while he was visiting his dacha in Crimea. State media reads out the committee's decree declaring a state of emergency and declares that Mikhail Gorbachev is seriously ill and unable to lead the nation. Censorship begins. Independent media, such as Echo of Moscow, is shut down. Boris Yeltsin, President of the Russian Federation, condemns the coup. Yeltsin travels to the White House, the Russian Parliament building, and clips a thing in this famous video where he condemns the coup and tells Russians to condemn the coup and fight against it and preserve democracy. The coup fails to fully capture Moscow. August 20, day 2 of the coup. Crowds around the White House reach tens of thousands and block the ways into the White House. Citizens make blockades using buses, barricade materials and vehicles. Many members of the committee appear nervous while giving a televised press conference, which heavily damages their credibility with the Soviet populace. Many units begin to refuse orders, and several commanders contact Yeltsin declaring that they will not attack civilians. The international community, most notably USA and the European states, refuse to recognize the committee and cry out for Gorbachev's return to power. Outcome of the day. The day is rounded out by the committee do not take any decisive action to storm the White House. August 21st, day 3. A confrontation occurs in a tunnel in Moscow and 3 civilians die, which heavily increases the public outrage towards the coup. The elite Tamanska division and other units begin withdrawing from Moscow. Most army commanders state that they will not support the committee on the state of emergency. Most members of the committee either flee Moscow or attempt suicide, such as Boris Pugul, this interesting fella that I was talking about. The remaining coup leaders try to go to Crimea to sort things out with Gorbachev and try to not get purged. Gorbachev later returns to Moscow and publicly condemns the coup. Yeltsin orders the arrest of all the committee's members. The coup has ended. Aftermath. Yeltsin bans the Communist Party of the Soviet Union from operating in Russia, which is interesting because Russia was still in the Soviet Union, which is incredibly funny to me. Russian flag is raised over the Kremlin on the 22nd of August, and Gorbachev resigns as General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Many of the republics which had formally supported the new union have withdrawn their support and declared full independence from the Soviet Union. The coup ultimately led to the fall of the Soviet Union and was the last-ditch attempt trying to preserve it. Thank you for watching the video. This video was more robotic than the last time, but this is a new type of video. I want to focus on history, not alternative history, on real history. So I try to be more factual and talk less freely. I hope you enjoy this new series, and that's it.